We're going to move on to our next story here. This is very important. And of course, CNN, they did cover this. I mean, they kind of have to because it involves one of their producers. So recently it was announced that a CNN producer actually lost 9 family members in Gaza. So I want to go ahead and get started with this clip here from Case Study QB. And then that is going to actually lead us into the conversation that Jake Tapper had with Mark Regev, who is the advisor to Netanyahu, where he also talks about this issue as well. Not just the CNN producers, family members, but there have been a number of journalists that have been killed in Gaza as well. So let's go ahead. Shout out to Case Study QB for this clip here.
Since the beginning of this war, our producer, Ibrahim Daman, has risked his life doing fearless reporting on the ground in Gaza. After nearly a month, he fled with his immediate family, showing us what it was like to have to do that with 2 small kids in tow. This weekend, he learned that at least 9 of his family members who were in northern Gaza, still trapped there, have been killed, including his uncle and his aunt when an airstrike hit the family's home. His childhood home was also hit in a separate strike. He said that he'll never be able to forget, quote, every stone and corner of the house in which I was born and raised and in which my children were born. We are thinking of Ibrahim and his family tonight as they go through something that unfortunately so many families are also experiencing. This is we're learning today that Gaza is in what is being called a near total blackout, according to the internet monitoring firm, and all telecom services there have been completely cut off. That means Palestinian civilians can't check in each other, they can't call for help, they can't get all of those orders telling them where to evacuate.
But those of us in independent media have been saying this from day one, right? Al Jazeera has been saying this from day one, and CNN and commentators like yourself there, Caitlin, you were late to the party. Joe Biden also late to the party. He said, I don't believe the numbers coming out of Gaza. Remember that? Then he had to come back and issue an apology. It took them losing one of their own. Do you see how this works? Like it has to affect them directly. It took them losing one of their own, well, one of their producers losing their own family members in this disaster for them to fully like take it in. Should have never come to that.
Joining me now, UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell, who just returned, I should note, from Gaza last month. And thank you for being here. It's good to have you again. Given it's so rare to hear from someone who has been on the ground in Gaza, what did you see in southern Gaza where you were?
Well, it was really striking, actually, because I was in Khan Yunis, which now is so much in the news because it's really under assault at this point. But when I was there, that wasn't the case. I was there 2 weeks ago, so there were so many people, just even in the street, teeming with people who had moved from different parts of Gaza and were looking for some refuge. I went to a hospital there, and every place I walked, there were people kind of sleeping in the corridors or sort of camped out in the corridors on blankets, children, adults, everyone. They were just there seeking refuge. And so it was just, I remember feeling kind of overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of people that I saw. And then I also saw just, huge amounts of trash. I mean, I think that all of the sort of typical services have been disrupted. And now, we see in the news every day, that's now a place that's being hit with bombardment. So it's even worse. But what I saw was just really unnerving, really, to see how many people were there and to hear from them about how many of them had moved multiple times, had come from different places, had lost family members, and were there trying to find some peace.
And given that
some people in Gaza have lost entire family lines, an entire line of family having no one left. And notice what it says at the bottom of the screen there. Concerns grow as diseases spread in Gaza shelters. This is what happens when you don't have water, adequate water. They didn't have clean water to begin with. Let's be real. But this is what is happening. I mean, it's just, there's no one to pick up the trash. There's none of these things are operating because, again, they're under attack. It's not just northern Gaza, it's also southern Gaza as well. So notice what she said, people not knowing where to move, and they're told to go to one place, and then they get there and then that area is attacked. And then they're like, well, where do we go now? And by the way, they can't just exit Gaza. It does not work that way. They can't leave Gaza and go into Israel. Like, they can't do that. So these people are fundamentally trapped. They are stuck there.
I mean, that southern Gaza and where you were, Han Yunis, and where they're conducting operations right now, that is where they were told to go by the IDF when this was initially happening. Now they're being told, more targeted areas to leave those areas. A lot of them don't have internet service. I mean, and they're talking about QR codes that are on the leaflets that the IDF is dropping. Are they able to even know where to go and what to do?
No, I don't.
She's talking about the internet service. I just want to remind everyone, they didn't have good internet service to begin with in the first place. I think the most they could get there is like maybe 3G. So the internet connection there was never great to begin with. Also, when you're trying to flee rockets and bombs, you may not really be thinking about grabbing your phone at that point in time. So that's something that I think Kaylin also needs to think about.
I don't think so. I mean, we estimate that 1.8 million people in Gaza, of the 2.2 million people who live there, have been displaced. Okay, so imagine that. They're not home. Electricity, power is very hard to come by. So how do you look at a QR code with what, right? Do you even have, if you have a phone, is it even charged up? How do you do that? I think people, the challenge is that they don't have any security at all. They've been moving, they keep moving, they're afraid, they're living in terror, and they don't know where to go. They don't know where it's safe.
And also in reference to the electricity, we got to remember again, they didn't control it. They don't control any of the resources. The state of Israel controlled the electricity, and they would cut it on and off when they felt like it. Same thing with the water. They would cut it on and off when they felt like it. So again, it shows you, I think, just how uneducated some of these commentators on mainstream media were about this particular issue. Again, these people show up to work. They have their notes made for them. They read teleprompters. They're not doing real research. Like that's the thing. Like those of us in independent media, we actually have to read. We have to look these things up, and then we have to look for the information that mainstream media has most likely left out to fill you in with it. But the thing is like that shows you just how uneducated they have been about what people were facing in Gaza even before October 7th.
And I think, the challenge for the world is to say, we're in a situation where I think of it as kind of like a piece of paper, right? You fold it in half, so you move south, fold it in half again, fold it in half again. At some point, there is no place for them to go. There is no safe place, and they know that, and they feel that, and they're terrified.
And are we at that point now?
I think we're close to that. I don't know where first of all of Gaza is not that big. I mean, it's a small place as it is, and there just is so little space, and it's one of the most densely populated parts of the world, and there just isn't any place to go. There isn't any place where people feel safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's the size of Las Vegas, and there are 2 million people there. Yeah. Kathy Russell, thank you for sharing that experience with us. Thank you for being here. Of course.
It is a cramped ghetto. That's really what it is. Now, Jake Tapper actually had a discussion about this, about the attacks that are happening in Gaza with Mark Regev. Now, he is Netanyahu's prime minister. He's done multiple interviews since October 7th. But one of the things that's interesting about this discussion is that Jake Tapper actually did push back on him, which I was surprised to hear that. But again, this is also in reference to what happened to the CNN producer's family. So this is all in the same, time frame here. And he is going to push back on Mark Regev in reference to, are they doing their best to avoid civilian casualties? Listen to this.
Mark, there are a lot of innocent people being killed by bombs that Israel is raining down upon Gaza. And even if, as I know, the IDF believes that that Israel has killed 5,000 members of Hamas, that's thousands of innocent people, including women and children, babies that Israel has killed. And even if it's an accident, even if it's collateral damage, it's a lot of innocent lives that have been killed by Israel.
So you are correct that we don't want to see a single innocent civilian caught up in the crossfire between the IDF and the Hamas terrorists. And we're making a maximum effort. I mean, we've been leafleting and urging people to leave areas of combat from day one.
So he says that they're making a maximum effort. Were they making a maximum effort when they decided to mow the lawn, which they go into Gaza and do every now and then? They go into Gaza and they mow the lawn. They kill more people. Were they making a maximum effort then? What about during the funeral procession of Palestinian American journalist Shireen? What about then when the IDF were attacking the Palestinian people that were just trying to carry her casket down the street? Were they making a maximum effort then? And we're not even just talking about the physical attacks. Are they making a maximum effort when they give them 95% dirty water, which can lead to other types of illnesses and disease? Are they making a maximum effort when they control the food that goes in and out of Gaza, when they decided to shut it down and no more food going to the people? Are they making a maximum effort then? Were they making a maximum effort when they took millions of people and they crammed them into a ghetto open air prison? No, they never were making a maximum effort to protect the Palestinian people. And I want to say something about the children, and I hope this really rings home to people, especially those of you that are parents. There's a reason why the babies are killed. There's a reason why the kids are killed. I told you earlier about people losing entire family lines. That is to stop the next generation. Think about that. The majority of the people that were in Gaza were children. That is to prevent the next generation of Palestinian people. That's another way that you kill people off. Let's continue here.
And the truth is, most Gazans did vote with their feet and did exit areas of combat, and wisely so. We don't want to see a single Gazan civilian caught up in the crossfire.
That's a damn lie.
But we're working against a brutal enemy who deliberately wants to use Gaza's civilians as a human shield to protect its war machine. And it makes our job just so much more difficult. But I think, and I've seen the numbers, and I can't share with you yet, but when this is over, we can have a serious discussion when the fog of war is behind us. But I am convinced, though every single civilian death, and especially children, is a tragedy, and we don't want to see it, in comparative numbers, if you compare Israel to perfection, of course we'll fall short. But if you compare Israel to other Western armies who've been fighting terrorists in built-up urban areas, I think Israel will not come out badly in the comparison. On the contrary, I think it will be seen that the IDF really has done everything that is humanly possible to try to safeguard innocent civilians.
Notice how Jake Tapper's shaking his head? Look at this. Look at that. Look at the expression on Jake Tapper's face. Because at this point, you can't continue to sit up there and deny it. You really can't. The number of civilian casualties that have happened so far in Gaza, they've already said it exceeds the numbers from Iraq, exceeds the numbers from Afghanistan. By the way, these are only the numbers that have been reported. Remember, the numbers will increase as time goes on. These are just the numbers that they've been able to count, the bodies they've been able to find. So this number is going to increase, but he's shaking his head. He's not buying it.
Everything that is humanly possible to try to safeguard innocent civilians.
It's very hard to believe that, especially on a day when one of our producers lost 9 members of his family who were not members of Hamas, not members of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, not members of any group, just 9 people just trying to live their lives.
Yep.
First of all, I extend my sorrow to him and my sympathies. But if I saw your report correctly, and please correct me if I say something wrong, that happened in northern Gaza, in Gaza City, where a month ago we already asked all the civilians to leave. And most of them did. If there was like 1,200,000 people there, there was only a couple of tens of thousands left. And one has to ask, yes, they had ample opportunity to leave. I don't know what happened. I don't have the specific circumstances. I know there's deadly combat going on now in the north, still between these IDF and Hamas terrorists, yes? And
You're the advisor to the prime minister, but you don't know what's going on?
You don't want to see anyone caught up in the crossfire, but why didn't they heed the advice and leave the area?
You can't blame them. There's now
I don't blame them.
But you can't.
Oh, he's blaming the dead people. See how this works, folks? Oh, let me just blame. Oh, why didn't they leave? Why didn't they heed this? Why didn't they? Really, when you told them to leave the north and go to the south, and you were still bombing people in the south as well. Every place you told them to go to, you were attacking. That was a trap. This man cannot sit up here and just continuously lie. It took a CNN producer losing 9 members of his own family for people like Jake Tapper to effectively push back on this bullshit. A lot of times people don't really care about things until it hits close to home. It affects them directly or someone close to them. So these are just outright lies.
The advice and
You
leave
can't
the
blame,
area.
you can't blame them. There's now
I don't
fighting,
blame them.
but you can't. There's fighting in the South now. Where are? I mean, I've been asking this since October 7th. Where are these people supposed to go?
So at the beginning, it was easier because the fighting was concentrated in the north, and we just asked people to move south, and that was relatively simple. Yes, I'm not saying totally simple, but relatively simple. Just go south of the river.
That was after you already were bombing them. You told the people to leave after you were already attacking the people.
But now we're being more specific because it is more complicated in the south. We've actually designated areas in the south which are safer areas, which are especially, there's a number of them. We've shared the maps with the United States. It's been shared also with the UN and the other humanitarian organizations. Listen, we have to hit Hamas in Khan Yunis. They've got a strong military infrastructure there. They've got a network of tunnels. If we want to destroy Hamas's military machine, and we have to act in the south as well. Senior Hamas commanders are there under the ground in Khan Yunis. We can't not go there. But in going there and to defeat Hamas, we're also going to make a major effort once again to try to safeguard civilian lives. And that's why we're urging people there now to move to the new areas that we've specified. And as the ground operation starts, I can assure you that the escape routes, the humanitarian corridors that will allow civilians to get out of harm's way will still be there.
The same escape routes that they went to earlier on and they were blocked. You know, Jake Tapper isn't buying it. You know, when Mehdi Hassan interviewed this advisor, he wasn't buying it either. Mehdi Hassan's show was canceled after that. But I don't know. I don't know how many more lies they can continue to tell before more people actually wake up to what is happening here. You can only tell people to move so many times before they have nowhere else to move to. And that was the question at the very beginning. Where are they supposed to go? Well, you fence them in like they are cattle. So it's not like they can come into Israel. They can't go into Egypt. So where are they supposed to go? The narrative is really failing in reference to the state of Israel. Cheryl says their plan is to force them into Egypt ethnic cleansing. Yeah, but the thing is, you can't make Egypt open up their borders and say, okay, come on in. And Egypt is smart. They know that's exactly what they want to do. And Egypt's like, no, you stop trying to displace these people. Thank you for the super chat, Janice. Israel didn't have the right to tell people to leave their homes anyway. Why is Tapper not asking if dude condemns IDF? That should be the first question asked. That's a really good point. Right. They shouldn't have told these people to leave anyway. It's just very, it's so frustrating. But again, they have lost control of the narrative, so they have to. That's thankful to the protests. That's thankful to people, all the activists that have been speaking out against this and all the footage that has come from Gaza to people as well.